It's all right.
All right, let's go, baby.
All right. Welcome to He Said, She Said. We're on with Reginald today. Welcome, my friend.
Hi.
How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good. So I was just kind of setting the frame of what this is. And this is He Said, She Said, the elevated version. Like what we found, like I just said, historically, the He Said, She Said is how we get off track and how we create carnage in our own life, right? We bring tension to a lot of situations based on trying to prove ourselves right and trying to not listen to other people. Well, this is the way that we can leverage the power of both the he said and the she said in a very specific way to help you elevate your life. And so the hot seat and the gift of being with us with nobody else is you get to ask some questions deep into our minds about how to improve your relationship with anything in your life, or we can give you the choice of topics and we can just jam out. So totally up to you.
It's like giant. You never know.
I guess I'll ask the question.
Okay, he's ready.
So as you know, 2020 was hard for everybody. I think at one point I stopped doing the thing I used to do, the romantic stuff or showing that I love her and all that. And I realized that I didn't even notice that happening. And I guess one of the things is, how do I stop myself from not noticing me slipping?
Oh God.
Great question.
How can we love you anymore? Just holding space for being present here and asking the question is so gorgeous. So gorgeous. This is going to be like the most exciting episode ever.
I hope so.
Oh, and also, go ahead.
No, I said I hope so.
Oh, hope so. Well, and I'm gonna pivot this over to Michelle because she is the relationship guru of the universe, and so I'm gonna let her have the first crack at this. I have some thoughts, but I am more of the systems guy, the elevate on purpose guy. She's definitely the relationship expert, and then I'm gonna talk about. Then I'll answer a little bit about how the subconscious and conscious brain work together and how that we can create the automatic nature of habits. But let's start with the mushy gushy stuff.
The mushy gushy stuff. I'm trying to pull up slides because I love using pictures, and my computer is like 2 years behind us right now, so I'm gonna have to paint pictures with words.
That's fine.
Okay, so we'd love to get a little bit of background so we can super customize this for you. First of all, congratulations. And like I said, how much do we love you? Because you're putting the intention in the right place. So what Sean and I were just talking about in the green room before we started recording actually was, so I have this relationship cycle, and it starts out when you first meet someone, for example, in the discovery phase. And it's like all this chemistry starts happening and you literally get this endorphin rush and you're like, this is like a sensory experience I've not known in the past. And as you I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I'm such a sap. I'm like,
we all love the honeymoon phase. We all love the honeymoon phase.
Right. So here's the dealio on it though, because if all goes well, then, the intrigue and the uncertainty and all of those aspects start to come together and you get a little more confidence and you move gently into the casual phase. And there are three main pillars in a relationship that I consider like tantamount importance, and everything relies on those. And they are communication, trust, and respect. And when one of them starts to falter, the other two need to be strong enough to hold that triad together. Now, as you move from the discovery and chemistry phase, you move into the casual phase. And this phase is super yummy and delicious and starts to get a little cozy. And you start to have a little confidence in anticipating what's going to happen. And you like it. So you go there again. And so you start to have routines and things. But there's another thing that happens in these interactions in this second phase. One, you elevate the communication, trust, and respect to a point where it's not just on the need to know basis, but you can ask questions and expect, an honest answer. You can, so in the communication side of things, in the trust arena, you're going to trust that if, it might be time to start having conversations about being closer in the relationship. And the respect, of course, needs to be happening in like this infinity sign and this two-way communication, because otherwise it's somebody who might be subjugating themselves in an effort to glom onto the relationship and hold tight to something. And it's not an equal partnership. And I mean, relationships oftentimes go on too long in that arena, but that's not an enduring, fruitful, delicious existence. So we want to make sure that there's communication, trust, and respect that grow in the right phases. And I kind of think of a soundboard in a recording studio where you like pull things back and you push them up a little and you see how it goes and you test the water and you're a little bit more vulnerable. And when you find out that this person's going to hold you in a safe place, you can trust a little more. And then this builds. The other thing that happens in this phase is you start to notice the things that are not quite in your core values or in your everyday life and that thing. So the first phase, it's like everything's right. Oh my God. And then you start to go, yeah, all is good, but you're squeezing the toothpaste from the middle, and that is a deal breaker for me. So you kind of have to start making these decisions here of having things in common, and activities and interests in common are fantastic. Having core values is really what's more enduring. So we can like make this chemistry casual phase last a very long time by upping it with adrenaline rich interactions, those kinds of things. And I think that's where we're going to be going with you. And then what happens is we move to and I call it the committed phase, where we're actually relying on this other person for something. We're good with them representing us as we would represent them, the way that each other wants to be represented. So that's when you start making agreements, and the communication and trust and respect are elevated to a point in which we each behave in the partnership or in the relationship the way that we would expect one to behave, or each other to behave, even when no one's watching. Everything is, it's not on a need to know basis. It's if we're going to be talking about the sensitive stuff, we're going to be vulnerable. If it's money, if it's whatever it is. So you go through from chemistry to casual to committed. And then the whole thing changes when you decide to connect in a relationship. And I'll keep it super simple. Let's say we're going to be boyfriend and girlfriend, and we're going to make that public. Then you go through the chemistry phase of you talk about it. Oh, this is my boyfriend. This is my boyfriend, Reginald. And we try it on and see how it feels. And do we get chills and we like it or not? And then, so that moves us through, or we move in with one another. And then we get into lockdown. So now not only did we move in and everything's fine, but now we're in lockdown and we are really confined. So now you know a little bit about the structure that I'm going to probably respond to your question with. So will you share a little bit about the relationship that you are looking to enhance, which is so lovely?
Okay, so my wife and I, we've been together for 8 years, and we've been married for 5. We normally like to travel and do certain things together. We also have 3 cats right now, so that's pretty fun. We've been having a little bit of a hard time since COVID. We each were dealing with our own things, and I'm the very aware type of person. So if she tells me that she's noticing something or she feel like I'm not doing certain things, I try to be mindful and work on it. She told me a couple of things recently, which kind of hit really hard, and I'm trying to work on it. So, which is basically why I'm here, I
Awesome.
guess. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a super hard question because
Mhm.
thank you for sharing, thank you for trusting us. And because you didn't give us any granular details, I'm going to ask you, I mean, I'm super good with that. And it makes it easier for me to ask this question. Could she be, I didn't hear her name. It started with an M, but
Daniela.
oh, boy, I really didn't hear it. Sorry. Is there a chance that, I mean, you guys, let's just face it. The two of you have lives, you have goals, you're pursuing everything. You've known each other 8 years, so you know each other pretty well. You've made the commitment. So you've been doing this from chemistry to casual to committed relationship for years now. You've passed the infamous 7-year itch. And now you're coming on to the next round. You know, who knows if it's really the 7-year. Things expedite as we innovate. But where we're at now, it feels like all of the things that you are pursuing in your life, and then overlay all those challenges with the pandemic, and then you get stuck not only in your house but in your bodies and with one another, and it's like, okay, how are we going to make this fun? And from what you just shared with us, you've got the cats, so you've created your own family, and you're relying on one another for quite a bit. You're sticking it out for the long run here, it seems. And you're known as the one who's observant, but I just want like percent chance that she's dealing with some things that are her own personal challenges, and she would like you
Definitely.
to help resolve them. And sometimes we would like our partner to resolve them instead of having to work on them on our own. Is there any percent chance that this might be part of it?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay. So what you're doing is you're trying to be consistently the supportive partner, which is super beautiful, and realize that a kind way to do this would be to hold space for her and help with, I mean, it has to come from her, otherwise she's going to attack you. But you could be a role model. You could say, I'm interested in doing XYZ, and we don't really know what this concern is yet. So this is still, you know, in the ethers as far as we're concerned. But somehow we need to give her enough confidence, support, stability, and acceptance that she can make a decision that will help her figure this out on her own. If 0% of whatever this challenge is really yours, then really what we need to give her is stability and love and acceptance, so that it's easy for her to have the confidence to say, all right, everything's in place, I can do this. Does that make sense with what you're not telling us?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a trick, because you gave us a clue, and the clue was that you like to travel, but you haven't been able to. So I'm going to ask you, what about travel do the two of you enjoy together?
I think it's always, personally for me, is normally when we travel, we tend to go to the Caribbean, and I just love seeing like nature, the water to me is kind of relaxing, and it's like being in a different world and not having to worry about everything going on in our day-to-day life. It's just her and I.
Okay. Sweet. My favorite part of that was just her and I, right? Okay. So we can't necessarily, well, things are opening up now, but we don't want anyone to feel like they're running away from anything or trying to escape, right? You don't need to escape what's happening. Rather, enrich it and feel like you can have it wherever you are, that it's at home as well as in the Caribbean. So my questions to you are these. How can we bring nature in?
Well, I've been trying to grow some tomatoes, but that hasn't been working out.
I did the same thing last year. They grew 6 feet tall. I was like, my office was filled. So we were great minds think alike. All right. So you're on the right track.
Or I was thinking maybe do some more Caribbean cooking.
Ooh, good one. How about you could even do like Caribbean night. And so some Caribbean cooking, you can pump up the heat and make it really humid. Again, I love the humidifiers. We could play it. There are places in New York where you can go outside and be in nature too, right?
Yeah, for her birthday, I took her to the Catskills, so that was really nice. It definitely did help. I guess sometimes I do feel like I'm seeing I can feel the space between us, widening a little bit.
Say that again. I want to make sure that I get what you're saying.
So sometimes I can feel the space, and like there's a gap between us, and I'm worried that it will just keep widening, and it's kind of scary sometimes.
Okay, so the trust and the respect seems solid, but in that case, it's the communication that's stretching. Okay, so let me share this with you. In relationships, the first 2 years or so, these are not hard numbers. You can totally just rely on the chemistry that's happening naturally. As the years go on, then sometimes we need to infuse a little bit of an adrenaline rush. And you guys like to adventure. You like to go someplace where it's nature and there's water. And it's relaxing because you get to have a time out from the routine rut in life. And it's just the two of you. So you could consider creating that type of environment, but somehow we need to bump it up with an adrenaline thrill of some kind. I'm gonna, Sean, let's you and I come up with Reginald, you come in too. The three of us, we're gonna come up with a list of 21 ways to bump up an adrenaline rush when it's just the two of you. So I'm going to make a list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know why I picked 21, but there it is. Okay. So a roller coaster is a way to do it. I don't know if they're open there, that we have some, I just went on some roller coasters in California, but a roller coaster ride hits all of the emotional buttons. You're sharing an experience. There's kind of this am I going to be safe? So a little risk, but not that much risk, according to what we've seen in the world. And you're screaming, and there's vibration, and so there's air, there's the whole 9 yards. So let's come up with 20 more.
All right, zip lining.
Zip lining.
I love going to a break room and breaking things.
Yeah.
I
Scary
guess
movie.
bungee jumping.
Reginald, I didn't hear yours.
Oh, is it bungee jumping?
Yeah, bungee jumping would definitely do it. Scary
Yes.
movie.
Oh yeah, that would definitely do it also.
Sean, did you have one?
Role play.
Oh my God. Thank God you're here.
Well, I'm trying to think of things they don't have to leave their house or apartment to do.
That was good.
That's smart. That's smart.
All right. Let's do some more.
Well, for me, it's anything unexpected, right? Like, so if you were just to tonight walk up behind her, wrap your arms around her and give her a nice deep kiss on the cheek, like that will spark all of the same emotional momentum. Like that, and that doesn't even take a lot of effort.
There's something else beautiful about that. I'm going to give you an example with a client recently. She was so a little bit different story than yours. They're at a point in their relationship where they both feel obligated to move into a committed phase, but neither one of them really want that in their lives right now. And so she was asking me, how do I, I don't know if he's pushing it or if he feels like he's obligated to push it, but I don't know if I'm ready to go there with him. Things are good. And evidently he's been having trouble sleeping as a result of all things in his life, not just this. So my suggestion to her was, just like Sean was saying, come up behind him in a gentle way, hug him and whisper in his ear. So it's the law of attraction. It's an intimate thing. You're whispering it. It's stimulating the senses. He could smell her at this point and hear her, and it's super close. So they could be alone in the house, but this is what the suggestion is, because, it's like, oh, something exciting is about to happen. And put her arms around him. And my suggestion to her was to say, I'm really happy with the relationship that we have, our relationship, the way it is right now. And so she did it to a T. And she said not only could he stay overnight at her house, but he slept all night for the first time in weeks. And I was like, I win, because her boyfriend got a good night's sleep. So the law of attraction, and so we have the first 7. The second set of 7, let's talk about letting them be more sensual. Because the way that we experience life in this existence is through our senses. So let's come up with at least the next 7 of things that would be, and they don't have to be sexual, they can be, but at least sensual, with sight, touch, taste, smell, sound, intuition, any of that stuff. Okay.
So cooking.
Yeah, I was going to say something spicy, and you were talking about Caribbean food. And then if you're going to cook something specific for this kind of event, I would also say to use all the senses of the palate. So sour, sweet, bitter, tart, umami, you know about those. Okay. This is going to be fun. We're going to make the sensual cookbook for you. So I just said that, but something that is, sweet, I guess if we were making a menu, something sweet, something savory, something creamy, something sour, and umami is, I don't even know how to describe it, mushrooms kind of thing. I don't know, but just give it a lot of different aspects to it.
And I think with that, it can be challenging to do in a meal. And so sometimes the tasting is a better setup. so that
Ooh,
you can do pairings and tastings and things, as opposed to try to fit all that into one meal that you're prepping?
you're
Um,
right, because it's going to be too
don't,
hard. I set the bar too
the
high.
only thing is, like the past 2 days, I cooked. Um, Even yesterday, I did like a romantic dinner where I had candles, flowers on the floor, and made dinner salmon with tomato and some vegetable. Wanting to show her how I appreciate her. But the only thing is, I feel like I don't mind the cooking, definitely for it. But I kind of feel like if it's something I do constantly, it's maybe not as,
Right.
you know,
That's very, very true. It's your brain. Even on one of our recent sessions, I talked about the pursuit of happiness, and there's a science behind that. If you are pursuing things that bring you joy externally, and you do it over and over, like the same box of chocolates, they could be the best chocolates in the world, but the same box of chocolates every day suddenly is like, I need a different bit of excitement. So you're right. It can't be you making dinner all the time, or it's just another thing. Unless you change rooms. Like you said, I think you said it was on the floor.
yeah.
Change environments, do takeout on the balcony,
Well,
breakfast in
so
bed.
just let me jump in real quick too. The other part of that is we have to make sure we're aligning our expectations of their response to our intent, right? The other piece that I picked up when you said that was the effort going into it for the outcome of it, right? So we just need to be able to self-evaluate, because we will lose our momentum to put the work in if we're not seeing our expected result out. So whenever you go into doing something for her, I would just ask you to be very intentional about what you want it, how you want it to impact her, so that we know what we're looking for as a response. So, because one of the worst things in a relationship I found is I'm working my butt off to do something, and she's like, yeah, that missed the mark. Like, so we want to make sure that our effort is very targeted, very intentional, so that we don't get discouraged putting effort in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, when I did the romantic dinner, she definitely did notice and she was thankful. Um, Also, at the same time, what you just said just now, it does hit home a little bit, but I try not to think about it too much because I feel like at the same time, uh, the way I feel, she probably did feel the same way at one point in the relationship. So I feel like that's something I just need to work on, if that makes sense.
Is one of you more, so my late husband used to say, at least one of us needs to be happy. But there was also a give and take in the relationship over, it was like one person gave more and the other received more in pretty much everything all the time. But is there in your relationship, is one person more the giver and the other receiver?
Uh, I'm not sure. It's kind of weird because I feel like at one point she was more the giver and then it flipped. Yeah, it kind of flips around between the two of us,
Okay.
which
I just
is
wanted to make sure
interesting.
that no one was actually getting taken advantage of. So to Sean's point, creating a situation, we still don't know what the real issue behind the issue is. We were letting it just be a mystery and playing the game with that. You're welcome to share realities if that's totally your choice. Otherwise, you can let us use our intuition. But I think that what's relevant that Sean was bringing up also is making sure that you're doing the right thing right. Because so often I find in relationships that somebody is going out of their way and out of their way and out of their way, and it becomes the expected norm, as we talked about, or it's like the other person's going, I never asked you to do that. And then it's like the person who went out of their way is like, I did it out of love and I wanted to bump up the experience for you. So making sure that what you're doing is actually received the way you want it to be, and that the timing is right. So you're doing the right thing, the right way at the right time. So what's your intuition as to how to make sure that the efforts that you're putting forward are going to hit those three things? The right thing in the right way at the right time.
I think it's one of those things, to be honest, is if I do it too much, then it becomes just the norm. I just need to probably alternate what I do to show her I love her. I think it's basically if I do it too much, it becomes the norm. Because I remember when we first got married, one thing she said that was important was me helping around the house, because she said that was her love language. I understood that. So on my day off, I cleaned, did the laundry, cooked. I did everything I could to clean around the house. But when 2020 happened, I was on furlough. And deep down, I did not want to think about the whole I might not have a job aspect. So I did what I like to do to not think, which is play video game. And I did that. Fantastic. At the same time, she was also going through stuff because she was working from home at that point. And she's the type, she need to do something to not think about it. So she overworked to the point like she was doing things she did not need to do for work, or she was always trying to clean around the house every day, which I'm like, there wasn't really nothing to be clean at that point. But she did feel like at that point I was distant to her, and she felt a little bit alone, and I get that, which is why I guess I'm here. Again, I know I am aware that I could have definitely been better. It's just one of those things, I guess.
So again, my late husband used to play video games quite a bit, but he would give me warning. It was so awesome. And it was a joke at the time, but he'd say, yeah, you're going to be a video game widow for like the next 3 days. There's this really cool thing I want to do. And but he set an expectation for me. He died, so now I'm an actual widow. So now it's sort of like I'm the only one who can actually say that now. But he'd be like, "Yeah, you're going to be a video game widow, and here's what the game is." The way that we did switch it up a little bit. I mean, I'm just not into video games. I know I shouldn't admit that in this day and age, but I can gamify a reality situation. But there were a couple of games that were interesting for me to hear the plot line, or they were like before escape rooms were a thing. Escape rooms should be on the list. I'm putting that one.
Yeah, not really. I tried. She doesn't like the idea of the escape.
Okay.
Yeah, I asked her once if she wanted to do it. She's like, nah, no, not for me. I'm like, okay.
But there was this one where it was like all these puzzles and things, and it was dynamic enough. I'm just sharing my experience to give you an idea, because I don't know what games you're playing, so I'm prompting you. But there was one that it kind of went into our real waking life. Like the game designers would call you with a recording and be like, oh my God, we just got a phone call from my video game that says this and this and this is happening. We had to like go do something about it. Or I don't know, there were challenges. I know the question to ask. I'm intellectually stimulated, so those were really fun for me. Is she a more physical person, a more emotional person? Is she a kinesthetic learner? Give us something about her, because now we're getting an idea that her challenge is she needs a sense of accomplishment. She needs a sense of recognition that she's not getting at work anymore. And all the stuff at home's been done. So I'm thinking a project might be coming your way. But what kind of, she likes acts of service. We get that in the love language. But when given the way that she does something, does she prefer to use her intellect? Like, I mean, everyone uses all of them, but is she physical about it? Which maybe because she was cleaning the house, you know, do you know where I'm going?
Yeah, I would say more emotional and a little bit of the physical. She does move around a lot, but I would say more. There's a lot of the emotional in whatever she's doing.
Okay. Sean, I want to give you a chance if you need one.
No, I mean, there's a concept of the Shiva that I want to bring up at some point in time, but not quite yet. So we'll
Okay.
get to that. So keep going with that.
Okay. So when we're talking about doing things together, the escape room fell flat because she's more of an emotionally driven and a physically driven person. So let's see, there's IQ, intellectual quotient, there's creativity quotient, CQ, there's PQ, physical quotient, EQ, emotional quotient, AQ, I hate this one, it's adversity quotient, I got it in spades, and SQ, spiritual quotient. So it sounds like emotional, physical, I don't know where she is on spiritual or creativity.
Or spiritual, she's up there now. She used to be religious, but she's more religious now. I would say she's more spiritual now. One thing when we got married is I'm an atheist and she's Catholic, but she was okay with it and I was fine with it. She asked me if I was willing to go to church with her. I told her I didn't mind, so I did, and then she told me she didn't like the church, so kind of stopped. But recently she told me that it's been bothering her the fact that I'm not religious, which is a little bit frustrating because part of me is like, that's how I was to begin with. And I'm very honest, maybe too honest sometimes. So she asked me what I believe in, and I told her the truth. I'm not gonna lie because I don't think it's relationship is built on lying. Yeah, so she told me that's been bothering her. So, which is weird because I've been asking her certain question about how she's doing spiritually, and she told me that whenever I do, she feel like I'm either making fun or she feel embarrassed. And I'm like, I'm not making fun. I'm just literally asking because it's something that's part of you.
Super thoughtful, but it's a hard one to answer. I'm like, am I supposed to say, well, I'm 100% full. I'm getting an A. It's a hard, I'm feeling connected to my higher self and, God. It's hard to answer the question. But it gives us a little bit more information because again, we talked about adventuring in the house, adventuring in nature, adventuring where there might be water. Are you near a body of water?
We can get to one.
Okay. So seeing, like, what are the things that you did when you guys first met that were totally exciting? Do you remember any of those?
I mean, we used to, on the first date, we went bowling, and that was something we used to do. But I think one of the things she liked, which I'm planning on probably doing, is I used to send her cards in the mail, and kind of stopped doing that.
Well, I think you just came up with one really good one right there.
Okay, let me jump in on that too. Like, so there's a couple different pieces of why that's genius, right? One, words and language are so incredibly powerful, but the best part of that is, so everything that you've said you've done so far is kind of forcing her to react in the moment in front of you. And so there's pressure in that. Even though it's a love gesture, there's pressure. The rose petals on the floor, the cooking, the adventure room, like, you're there for her response, which is putting pressure on her response. When you leave a note or a card, no pressure of how she should feel, shouldn't feel, should react, shouldn't react. So you give her the gift of being able to process it emotionally however she wants, and then bring a response back to you. I think we as men sometimes get confused that we have to do these big gestures directly for them. Sometimes the most romantic gesture is to leave them something special that they can receive emotionally in the way that they want in the moment. Does that make sense? And I think the card or the note or the whatever is the play, because it removes all the pressure of her needing to respond in the moment.
Okay, I get that.
He said, she said is so good. Because that also goes, I mean, I certainly coach in both directions on that one. Disconnecting your expectation from the outcome is a really big gift also. And that's what Sean is saying. Because, and Sean was pointing out also, it's like, I'm going to do this, but I want you to acknowledge me for that. When what we're sensing is that she's the one who needs the acknowledgement right now. In every, think of the things that she's done, or, okay, here's something I do sometimes when people is her self-worth or self-value being in question for herself?
Maybe. I know, so we just turned 30, which is fantastic. But I do know that since that happened, there's a lot more stuff that she always wanted to do and never did. And then now she's trying to do everything right now. And then she's also sometimes talk about how she always had to do stuff that her parents wanted to do, and she never actually did stuff for her. So she feel like she wasted a lot of time in her 20s doing what other people wanted. So I feel like now she's trying to do something that she wants.
Awesome. This is developmentally appropriate age-wise. So the two of you are growing together in this way. You could make you could share a list of things, and it's so plus now she's also going to decide and define her own spirituality, the way that it's going to work for her in her life, not the way that she was guided. I mean, the core values are still there, but she's going to start to create life in her own definition. And you too, in your 30s. So maybe you could make a celebration of welcome to the 30s. What would we like to do with this decade? And then what happens, over the next 20 years is you realize, I don't really care what other people think or what their suggestions are. I'm going to do my life my way, just to give you a little insight of what's coming. And, you've got the seeds on that starting to take root now. So go for it. What do you want in your life? You can ask these questions. Sometimes I draw a line in the sand and go, here's your lifeline. You're here. What would you like to do with the rest of your one precious life? How should we live it? What kind of legacy would we like to create? What impact do we want to have on the planet? What impact do we want to have on ourselves and on each other? What goals would we like to achieve? And having these kinds of conversations that are open-minded and big, and they're exciting because it creates possibility and openness in a time when you're shut down. And then there's always a way to start the process, even if you can't actually go outside and go to the Caribbean. There's a way to plan it or start it or learn French because we're going to a French Caribbean island this time, or whatever it is. I mean, that was a leap, but there's a way to start the planning, which then becomes exciting. So planning projects or events together is another way to build an adrenaline rush, because it opens up possibilities, and it will share something, that you're entwining your lives together without affecting spirituality and no expectation of whatever the outcome is. It's just open-minded.
I would say there's one thing I'm a little bit worried about. The gap that I'm sensing. Sometimes I'm worried that what if I'm the one that's sensing it? Does that make sense?
Yep.
What if she's fine and I'm the one that's overthinking stuff?
Well, that is what's happening, but Sean, did you say something?
Well, I think that it is and it isn't, right? Like, and so I love the concept of the Shiva. And what I mean is, like, and I'll tell you a story. So a man goes out and he crushes in business in a day and makes $1 million. And he comes home to tell his wife. And she's like, you forgot the milk at the store. Well, historically, as men, we would be like, oh, she's not supporting me. She's not proud of me. She's not celebrating my success. And really what she's doing is testing the Shiva, or your love response. So if we piece a couple things together, she feels like she wasted her 20s because she didn't feel an empowerment in her life. She's going through struggles in life. One of the major things that was important to both of you, travel's been removed. You're around each other more than you have been. And there's a lot of things happening, right? So there's all this uncertainty. And so what she's looking for from you is a consistent response of love, no matter what she presents to you. And so the greatest thing you can do from her is, no matter what she presents as, love her. No matter what she says, love her. Now, this isn't quote unquote fair per se, but what she's trying to do is determine that she can trust your love response. Now, here's the secret. She'll never stop testing your love response. But if you look at it as a gift to be more of the love that she can give, or that she needs, to be more trustful to her, then she will open up in radiance when you prove that trust. And then that distance vanishes. Now, we can try to solve it tactically, but the greatest thing you can do, whether she's struggling or complaining or telling you you need to pick more up around the house or telling you play too much video games, is respond in love. Because it's not her attacking you, it's her testing your love response for her. She's over and over and over saying, does he love me enough that no matter what I do or say, he'll love me? That's what she's trying to prove, especially in this transition period.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. All right, I get it.
And so right now she's trying to give purpose to her life. Is that where we're coming? Is that where we're at here in her early 30s? And she's testing her spirituality. She's not satisfied, which means the dissatisfaction means she's looking for something more, that she's going to push herself to create something. And for you to be present to help create what that is, it's going to be very exciting. And if you can create something that you're doing together, it'll be very bonding.
All right.
What ideas do you have?
Definitely, I was thinking of doing the card thing. For some odd reason, I can't really think right now.
Okay.
So I'll give you a strategy that you could use to open space for this, right? And excuse the language, but it's just what I call stepping into the shit, right? Like, if you realize and you're feeling tension, what I like to do is go apologize for my contribution to the tension. Say, hey, I don't know if you're feeling this or not, but I feel this. And I know that I'm part of the cause of this. What I'd like to do is invite you into the solution, because what I really want to do is make sure that you have the ability to go create and explore and crush the world. And I want to be your greatest cheerleader. So can we at least talk about that? And it removes the tension of the conversation.
I feel like I did that recently, because she had one of her dog training tests recently, and I was supportive. She needed some space to study, always checked in to see if she needed anything, you know, always told her she was gonna crush the test, which I'm pretty sure she did. Even asked her how everything went. So I was as supportive as I could in that situation. There's been a lot going on, and sometimes it's just hard, I guess.
So I'm going to ask Sean to repeat something that he said, because being supportive of the situation is different than actually creating space and pulling the tension out. So Sean, we need like the 3 easy steps and the words for Reginald.
Well, so the easy steps are call out the tension, because if she feels it or she doesn't feel it, she probably notices that you feel it, right? So it's like the elephant in the middle of the room that nobody wants to talk about. Like when there's tension, everybody feels it. So call out the tension. Hey, babe, I realize that there's tension or distance or whatever the word is you choose you want to pick. Then take full responsibility for it and be like, it's my fault. Like I'm causing this and I'm committed to being the best husband I can be to you. So I want to invite you into talking about that and then link it to what you want her to go, like what you believe in her to go do. Then the supportive piece drops in, because I know you're amazing and I know you're trying to do amazing things and I want to be the best support. But it's you get rid of the tension by calling it out and by taking responsibility so that it's not, she doesn't feel like you're putting the blame on her. It will bring down her defenses so that she's more willing to open up.
Okay. It's not that easy, but okay.
No.
Well, no, it's a skill. It takes practice, and we'll we all trip over our tongues and over the moment, you know. So, but go ahead, Michelle.
Well, I was just saying that's why I wanted to make sure it was 3 easy steps. So Reginald, what is step 1?
Creating a space so that she can, I can bring up the conversation that I noticed there's a space between us, making her feel like it's not her, it's basically me, and I'm aware of it and I'm trying to work on it.
So you went through the 3 steps there. Create the space, take responsibility, and then add the support in of what you see she's capable of. Because you naturally function in a supportive role of her. Like it's very easy for you. It's also why it's your comfort zone to go to. We just need to create the space for that to be received for her. And that's what you do by calling it out and taking responsibility.
I did something similar, but I think I kind of missed the taking responsibility part of it. So it did not go.
Well, so here's the secret behind this. Like I saw a quote the other day that I really liked. It says, sometimes we apologize not because we're wrong, but because the relationship is more important than being right.
Thank you.
and so here's the secret of taking responsibility. The minute you say it's my fault, I'm taking responsibility, I don't actually care if it's your fault or not. The minute you say it's your fault, it makes her feel like it's not her fault, which opens her up to share and talk. Remember, we're always after the number one goal. The number one goal is connection and to get rid of that distance. If you've got to take responsibility to create a space for her to connect, then that's just your job in that situation. Now, the only reason, and I'll dial the intensity up on my coaching here, the only reason you wouldn't do that is your own ego. Because I know you love her. I know you want to connect with her. I know you want to get rid of the distance. The only reason you wouldn't do this strategy is if your ego is getting in the way. That's not good. That's not bad. That would be how you'd limit yourself. But if you're in the mindset of I love her, then taking responsibility is easy, because the responsibility isn't the goal. She is the goal. The connection is the goal. And that's where, like, we came back, we talked to, we got to keep the main things so we don't get off track on the bullshit.
Okay. All right.
Do you have your 1, 2, 3 now?
Yes.
Okay. I love that communication is the thing that actually you're really good at and you're willing to do, and trust and respect are already in place. That I see the commitment to yourself, that you're going to make an effort to connect in communication, in written communication. You're going to connect in communication, in verbal communication. You're going to connect in communication. I mean, what happened was you guys got stuck in the house, and you got, became dense and closer together, but then you like created space, maybe in some ways out of respect, because you couldn't, get outside as much. But that could be part of what's creating the riff. She's doing something with dog training and taking tests and accomplishing things. So she's focused on that. Giving her something to look forward to might be fun. And you can work on that together. It doesn't have to be you just giving either. Would you like to schedule time after your test, after studying, after whatever you're doing, and specify, we could either A, B, C, or something that you come up with, so that she can, suggest something. The other piece, she's emotionally charged. So recognizing her accomplishments are good. And she's not getting it at work anymore, or wherever it was she was doing before. But I want to keep talking about connecting physically for a minute. And that's another form of communication. And we've talked about, coming up to her, but you have to do it at the right time. If she's studying and focused, she's gonna be like, what with you?
Yeah, that's happened.
So realizing the timing on that. There's so much.
Michelle, can I jump in just 1 second? Because it's very easy when you get tactics like this to get really overwhelmed, right? Like everything new is new, right? So neither Michelle or I would have any expectation that you would go master this immediately. Like we're introducing an idea to you that takes practice, it takes repetition. So one of the reasons why we run this room, one of the reasons why we're here, is to help people close the gap on the introduction of an idea to the execution of an idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because, and we as men, we get in this all the time, like, oh, the minute I get this idea in my head, I should be great at it. Well, that just doesn't exist. And so we're here to help, so that you don't have to be the expert on closing that gap. We can actually help you close that gap and make you effective at it as fast as possible. So don't put pressure on yourself to be perfect at this. Let us help you.
Okay.
So because I know as a guy, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be perfect a lot. So I just wanted to clear some of that pressure up. So
Yeah, I get that feeling.
So go ahead, Michelle. I didn't mean to interrupt. So.
No, that was perfect. I don't know if I should be pushing what I was suggesting. I'm going to go back to using your senses and using your intuition to figure out where the timing is to come closer, to sit next to her as opposed to across from her, to even just give the side hug. If not, you don't have to like come on strong, but all these, like, have some game. Do you know what I mean by he's got game? Do these little things where you brush up against her gently, or smell really good, or dress, put a little attention on, or acknowledge when she's made a little attention, because, give her a chance to feel good about herself and acknowledge that. Just, it raises your own self-esteem, not only from the inside out, you could go from the outside in. But, sitting next to her side by side, smelling her, letting your hand touch her knee, just these little things. It's like we're giving her this intense gaze of how beautiful you are. How has your world changed since she came into it? And you realize, I mean, I realize that we have been stuck together in this house for a long time, but I would not want to go through this with anyone else but you. And I am so lucky that I get you in my life every day. The gem of this pandemic is that we've been able to share more time together, and I value this time. If you want to get real on it, Reginald, imagine if she weren't in your life right now. I mean, this is my life experience. It wasn't, oh, here today, gone tomorrow. My late husband had cancer, so we had years. But if she were not in your life, what vacuum would that create?
If she wasn't there,
Yeah.
I don't know if I will have any meaning. Like, what will be the point, right? I
Right.
am who I am because of her. She's always been there supporting me when I needed it. I am a better me because of her. I have more reason to be because of her. So she brings more meaning to my life.
That's your card right there.
That's your card.
Oh, yeah.
Will you write some cards for me that I can give to mine too?
I just found one recently in a drawer that my late husband wrote to me. And it's like, you know, it gives connection in a way. I'm sorry to be the person who's like, what if they died right now? But that's been my life experience. So I guess I have the right to present it. There's, you know, if you're trying to figure out what do I say, think about the vacuum of if she were not there. Talk about the times that you had bowling and laughing, and you know, about when your relationship was in this discovery chemistry phase, and what happened when you went into the casual phase where you had all these interactions and you were like, I want more of you. And recreate the proposal. And I mean, you can play this any way you want.
Yeah, definitely probably do that in the, like, later on.
Right.
Yeah,
So as Sean was
I
saying,
kinda,
we're giving you easy, medium, hard. Soon, now, and
I kind of butchered that one because her ring broke a couple months ago, and I got her a new one. I basically just gave it to her, and like I could have done something more romantic at that point.
can't you have a do-over?
Huh? It's too
Can't you have
late.
a do-over?
It's too late. Like I already give her
No,
the
it
ring.
isn't.
And I'll have to steal the ring and make her think that she lost it, but that's like a
No, you don't. That sounds like a romance movie.
yeah. Yeah.
Just
I
say,
feel
you
like
know what? It's a prop now.
right. I feel like I'll probably try something later on in the future when she doesn't think about it. I think one of the thing with the card is I've written pretty decent amount of cards over the year, and I never want my cards to sound the same, if that makes sense. I always want them to be different because I want them to come from the heart. She told me how she didn't need a card every day or every week. So she mentioned about every month basically, and I'm like, oh, cool. It's weird because I don't mind, but I also at the same time want it to come from the heart, not like this
Scheduled.
force.
Yeah.
So I think
So
that's
let me
something
give you a tool that I use that can help with that, right? Because like a couple things, right? Sometimes we can feel that love gestures have to be like organic and spontaneous, right? There's nothing wrong with setting a reminder in your phone to say, hey, write the card for my wife this week, you know, because it's about the action and their response, not, you know, our stuff. But one of the things I love to do is an exercise called 3 words. What are the 3 words or phrases that no matter what you say, when you, or not, no matter when you say them, what she's feeling, she always feels better? Like, what are the 3 words or phrases she's craving to hear from you? And then what are the 3 words or phrases that no matter when you say them, no matter how great she feels, it always goes back? And if you get clarity on those 3 and those 3, all you have to do is stop saying the 3 bad ones and start saying the 3 good ones more.
so basically stop saying I forgot.
Yeah,
Oh,
like,
this
well, so
was
just
me.
get clarity on if it's I forgot or whatever, like just like get clarity on like in my relationship, one of the words is interesting. I love the word interesting because it's a curious thing to me. To her, it's a judgment. And so I have to make sure I never say that word. I think it's dumb because I love the word interesting, but she hates it, so I don't say it anymore. She loves the word value. And so I always say I value you, not because I don't mean it, but because it means a lot to her. But I hijack the system by just speaking the language she wants to hear and avoiding the one she doesn't.
You're so great.
All right. I can
I
do
don't
that.
want to make it any harder than it needs to be. I'm a guy. I don't want to make it harder than it has to be.
You just got
All
the
right.
secret key to the universe right there.
Apparently.
That was
So when she watches this later, she'll be mad at me because I just gave that secret away. But you're welcome, Reginald. I did that for you.
Thank you.
So, and just for me, I have about 5 more minutes before I have to
Right,
jump
I
off
was
to
just
my,
gonna
so I got
say-
a coaching call, but yeah, so
Right,
I just want to respect
yeah.
everyone's time too.
No, I get that.
Reginald, has this
Mm-hmm.
been impactful for you?
Oh, definitely.
What were 3 things you
Definitely.
learned?
The biggest one, honestly, is putting my ego aside. Maybe do thing and not expect a reaction, more of a surprise, and creating a room where I explain what I'm saying, and obviously I tell her that it is on me, and try to make her feel comfortable talking about it. And also do most spontaneous thing like cooking and that kind of stuff.
And recreate all the fun bits of travel.
Yes.
Yeah. Super good. Super good. Sean and I are thrilled that this is valuable to you. Sean, do you want to do a close up and then I'll stop recording?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing I would say, Reginald, is like the reason that Michelle and I do this is because we saw a gap in the world where, one, we're both really good at helping people get what they want and solve some hurdles. And we wanted to be of service to the world. So the reason that we did this is to try to introduce to people ways that they can improve their relationship with everything from their wife to themselves, to their mind, to their beliefs, to their money, to everything. And so there's space if you want to work with us. Like we have a program and we run this every single week. So if you want help, we're here, right? Like you can show up on Thursdays at this time. If you want to maximize the results of that, we do have a program that we work one-on-one with clients. So if you're interested in that, absolutely we're here. But this is about value because when we improve our relationship with, and you saw it today, when you improve your relationship with your language, your mindset, the words you say, the actions you do, your whole life changes. And one of the things I believe is that we all do the best we can. But the minute we know better, we do better. And you're walking away after an hour and 12 minutes knowing way better on what to do than you did an hour and 12 minutes ago. And so that's the transformation we provide. And we do it in such speed that it changes people's life forever in a very short period of time.
Okay.
All right.
So
I'm going to stop recording.
that's just the why behind.